What's up, everyone? Today I want to take some time to talk about my first job right after I graduated from college because I made some really stupid mistakes, and I'd like to share those experiences to hopefully prevent someone from going down a potentially destructive path, kind of like I did. And when I talk to new graduates, these are similar situations to that they find themselves in quite a bit. So I figure this is just good advice to have in general. So because I really want you to have a really good experience your first time out, because that's going to set the tone for your career, and it's going to give you more confidence kind of as you begin your professional journey. So when I first got out of college, I was naturally over the top excited when I got my first job. I was finally a professional, and I could show the world what I was capable of. And starting from day one, I really wanted to prove to everyone that I was going to make it big. And that's a really good attitude to have. And I think that's something that it's important to have a really, high enthusiasm. But you also got to remember there's some risks to it as well. As I would find out, I was really excited and I wanted to prove myself. But not everybody that you're going to be working with when you come into a new environment is going to have that same level of excitement that you are going to have. Not because they're not happy for you, but it's the potential, like I did, is I overstepped my bounds before building a solid foundation with those new people I was going to be working with. So, and this is something I talked about in a previous video, the concept of building the trust bank. Like I said, this was I was really excited to start working. So as I was going through my first few weeks, I was meeting all the managers and all my colleagues and people I would just be working with really closely. And since my job interacted with almost every department, I got to meet what seemed like everybody in the entire organization. And during these first meetings that I had, I would learn what each department was doing, how they worked, what their goals were, and how they worked to achieve those goals. And my first big mistake was thinking that because I had done a lot in college in terms of like an internship and my part-time job and my involvement in student activities, in leadership roles and volunteering, that I had this knowledge and, this experience to offer, where I would kind of portray it in a way like I kind of had all the answers already. I would mention things that we could be doing or should be doing, or I would say things like, well, when I had my internship, I did it this way, and it just rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. And, of course, my intention wasn't to step on anyone's toes or act like I knew better. I was just really excited to contribute and prove my value, but that wasn't necessarily the way people took it. They were kind of wondering, like, who is this guy who hasn't even been here a month, doesn't understand how we do things? Why are they telling us what is going to be a good idea and how things would work better? So of course, I get talked to right away from my boss, not like I was like I did something really bad, but more or less like, you need to slow down, start by listening and just trying to learn. And of course, I had an ego, so I was thinking to myself, like, well, I took it personally, because I felt like why am I getting chastised for just trying to be like a good employee? So here's the first lesson. When you're just starting out, keep your enthusiasm high. That's still really important. But here's the thing, you need to ask a lot of questions. What you've done in college is nothing compared to what happens in a real work environment. Even if you've led a big project or done some great things in an internship, it isn't the same as being successful in a professional capacity. And that's not to say, like, you may have had a really good internship experience and you may have done some really great things in school, like with a student organization or as part of a class. But again, it's different when it's a job, like it's a professional job. And not only did I make that mistake, but I've seen many college graduates make the same assumption, thinking that they have this experience or the experience that they had is kind of way up here, when really it's more or less like, that's compared to what it's expected of you at a professional and professional setting. That's nothing really. So the big thing is knowing that, yeah, of course, contribute. That doesn't mean your experience is completely invalid. What I'm saying is, make sure you understand where you are in comparison to others. So here I was, this 22-year-old, inadvertently telling people who had been in the department for like 15, 20 years what they should be doing or how things could work better. Again, even if it wasn't my intention, that's the way it came off. When you ask a lot of questions, it shows an interest in learning. It builds your trust bank with the people that you're working with. Don't offer these suggestions that nobody's really asking you for. Be excited to learn about the good things that are happening in the department. And once you kind of have established this foundation of trust with people, then they're going to be more willing to listen to your suggestions. And again, if you're in a meeting and they're looking for suggestions, or if you do notice something like, hey, I think maybe we should try it this way, that's fine. But again, the important thing is how you approach that conversation. What happens is a lot of new graduates come out and say, well, we should do it this way, or we need to do it this way, or I think we should do it this way. And that's the first way to kill any sort of credibility or relationship that you potentially may need to have with people that you work with. So second, one thing that the NFL players always say was the hardest thing for them becoming pro was adjusting to the speed of the game. The pace of the NFL is much faster than the pace in college. So they always say there was a learning curve that they needed to take, or they needed to have, to be able to figure out how to manage the speed of the game. So the same thing is true once you get into that first job. So my first job, I worked in special events, and in college, I was the event coordinator for multiple student organizations. I was also taking 20 credits a semester, and I thought I was busy, but that was nothing compared to what my first job was like. I really, really struggled, to say the least. As a student, I maybe had 2 events to plan at a time and some studying, but when I was a professional, I had like 3 to 4 events to plan, plus booking, concerts that I was in charge of, recruiting volunteers, coordinating the marketing for everything. And then on top of that, whatever else my supervisor was like, you needed to work on, that got added to my plate. So it seemed like I never had a break because I was always planning. And I also wasn't, when you go to class, you go to class for your few hours, then you come home, study, or, you do your thing. You have a pretty, your schedule is kind of all over the place, but at the same time, there's still somewhat of a structure to it. In events, there was no structure. I mean, I remember having to, be at places at 2 a.m. to make sure things were set up correctly that morning, and then staying until 4 p.m. and then going home to get like an hour nap, and then having to come back. And it just it was just like this overwhelming schedule that I just was not used to. So saying that I overlooked details or ended up taking shortcuts that backfired on me was a total understatement. So here's the second lesson. Take the time to develop a solid process early on. Don't rely on flying by the seat of your pants. As I've kind of grown farther in my professional experience, I've learned that really successful people pay attention to details. Even successful people who are big picture oriented still care and pay close attention to the little things. I always got by saying, well, it's not my strength, I'm more the visionary type. But that excuse bit me so many times. Like, I can't even tell you how much I got bitten because I just was like, oh, I'm not a detailed person. I'll just, rely on other people who are good at details to take care of that stuff. But really successful CEOs, VPs, and executives all have an eye for detail. They know the details of their budget. They know when things are just a little bit off. They think of small things that an average employee might overlook. And when I was new to my job, I didn't take the time to develop that skill, nor did I seek out help to improve on that skill. Only later, when I realized I had to make a change, or I'd keep making the same mistake, did I really put the work in. So when you're starting out your career, talk to your boss about how the work schedule is going to be, if they have any suggestions or tips on how to maintain your your time management skills. And then ask them, how they want things prioritized. What should you be prioritizing every day? Are there certain things that you need to get done every single day at a certain time? Ask those types of questions of your supervisor, so you don't kind of have this attitude of, well, I'll figure it out as I go. Because again, once you get in that professional world, it can be unforgiving depending on the career that you're in. So while you can, and while you're allowed to learn, figure it out during that time. So sometime during my first job, we had a big department restructuring, and I moved from an events coordinator to a fitness coordinator. And it sounds like a random change, but I had some background in fitness. I was really into running. I had a lot of athletic experience and things like that. I worked out a lot, and it was a great opportunity. I thought, this was more money, a better title, and a chance to kind of run my own department, which, by the way, this was a new department. This was kind of a new venture for the organization, because they hadn't really had a bona fide fitness department. They had kind of random, people that were doing fitness classes here or there that would kind of report to different people. But it wasn't like a solidified department. So I thought, this is great. What could go wrong? I feel like I was a good leader. I had experience leading students in an organization. I had good ideas. So what do you think the end result was? If you guessed a bad result, you are right. I sucked at it miserably. I thought the job, and to be fair, this was kind of what the job was kind of pitched to me, was, I'd be planning 5Ks, community wellness events, and I was even on a city marathon committee. So, I thought this was right up my alley. So, but the thing was, the job actually turned out to be more like supervising like 15 group exercise instructors, half of which were contracted, half of which were hourly, with differences in their contracts. And different, each one was on like some sort of different type of pay scale thing, because up until that point, like I said, this was never a formal thing. So trying to figure out payroll alone was a nightmare. But after that, I was told that I would need to actually start teaching fitness classes, which was something I'd never actually done or had an interest in doing. So I started to they had me meeting with a fitness consultant from a nearby university and work with them to become more acclimated to teaching. And I hated every single minute of it. I didn't want to do it. It wasn't what I signed up for. I completely lost interest. It was a struggle to get things done. I was sick of getting talked to about payroll. And just after a while, I kind of was like, I'm failing at this. This is not where I want to be. And so I outright quit. So this is the third lesson. Don't get distracted by titles, money, or a promotion. These things will come when you're ready for them. If you bite off more than you can chew too soon, you won't be able to make the impact that you really want to. Plus, if you choose things that are not in line with your bigger goals, you'll end up even more frustrated and closer to your breaking point than you ever would be. So again, this isn't to say this was all on me, because like I said, this was a job that that was pitched to me a little bit differently. But that being said, I failed to ask good questions because I was so attracted to the kind of the vanity portions of the job that I didn't take time to consider what the actual job was. I just saw a big paycheck. It didn't matter that this was an area that I didn't have an interest or experience in. And this comes back to that over enthusiasm of wanting to prove myself. And the other thing is, because I was so excited about proving myself, I never really stopped to ask myself is who am I proving this to and what am I trying to prove? The truth is, again, this was all vanity. I was just trying to boost my own ego. So since I didn't have the experience, I didn't know what to ask my boss for help with. I didn't even bother to bring up what the job was sold to me as there was nothing that, because no one really knew what the job actually was. So looking back on it now, if I were to advise myself, I'd probably pro and con the job. I tell myself to write a list of questions out to ask my boss on what I'd be doing every day, what additional training I'd have, what are the goals of this position, and since this is a new position, where do the organization, what do they want to see this position grow into, and then I'd ask myself if I see myself in this role for a long time, and how it's going to help me get to where I want to be. So again, in a nutshell, I need to slow myself down. And sometimes when people first come out of school, they want to be the first of their friends to be at a certain point of their life, or they want to be able to brag to people back home about what they have accomplished. I see this all the time. I hear people say because when things go wrong, then they start comparing themselves to other people. They say, well, my friends have great jobs and I don't. My friends are married and I'm not. I feel like a loser. And it kind of goes back to that, they're looking for things to compare themselves to other people with. And again, those are things that are going to lead you down a destructive path. And if you make your goal to prove yourself to other people, to compare yourself to other people, you're never really going to find out what really makes you enjoy your job. So there are 3 lessons from these are the three lessons that I just wanted to share about my first job, and the failures that I learned, or that I made, that caused me to learn these failures. So, and I wouldn't say my first job was great or horrible, but, it was just a big roller coaster. And, I also learned that there are ways to overcome these decisions, and with time and experience, you're going to figure it out for yourself. So it's important for someone just starting out to recognize your strength, but really take the time to understand your weaknesses. Don't put yourself in situations that are going to put a spotlight on those weaknesses, but try to find a job that's really going to allow your strengths to shine. My job was basically a crash course in working in a job that required all my weaknesses to be strengths, and it killed my confidence. Do yourself a favor and don't do that. As your confidence and strengths build, you'll also be prepared to navigate jobs that require you to focus on weaknesses a little bit more. Those are jobs for later, not right out of the gate. Because once you have that, once you go through that first job, and if you are in that situation where your confidence is just dead, you're going to start questioning everything. Did I go down the right path? I feel like a loser. Do I have to go back to school? That's going to cost me more money. How do I talk to people at home because I don't want to compare myself to them and they're all in jobs that they seem you see where I'm going with this? It's just one constant negative emotion after another. So if you can take what I had to learn and kind of apply it to your own situation, you're going to set yourself up for success much better than I did. So anyways, if you like this video, please give me a like and please subscribe. If you're interested in career coaching, please feel free to reach out to me. My email is in the description, and also check out my website, www.pbeatty.com, to download a free copy of my ebook, which is a problem-solving guide for helping you overcome any issue or challenge in front of you. And one of the reasons I wrote the book was because I wanted to help people figure out a way to get themselves out of bad cycles. And this is what I'm seeing more and more of. And the cycle it can start as early as your first month in the job. Just like that's because that's exactly what happened to me. And if I can help you avoid that situation, that would be, to me, that would be worth it in and of itself. So, with that, I'm going to go ahead and end this video, but take care. And again, feel free to email me if you have questions. Otherwise, I will speak to you soon, and we will talk to you later.